Right, let's put the spotlight then on all that's going on within the auto space. And Tesla is set to debut soon in India. What's going to be the impact for some of the other auto majors? Is competition really heating up? And when can we go for a test drive? I don't know if we can, but Hormazd Sorabjee, editor Autocar India, certainly will soon. And Arun Malhotra, we've also got an auto industry expert, both joining us on the show. So, Hormazd, managed to get your hands on a test drive soon?
Well, I think I drove a Model 3 some years back, and clearly it's an amazing car. We know what Tesla can do in terms of the performance, the software, how all that works. But adapting it to India is still it wasn't quite ready, especially in terms of something like ground clearance. So I think that's one thing they are having to address. Also, for all the hype it has in terms of build quality, really not the best, not as good as, let's say, a legacy car maker who's gone into EVs. So obviously, the Teslas have a certain wow factor. It is the poster boy of the EV world, driven, of course, by Elon Musk. So it definitely has a lot of star value. But I think this is a market that has humbled the biggest of brands. So I would, hold my breath until they come.
Those interiors and everything is looking super slick. And, Mr. Malhotra, I wanted to get in your take because we're talking about this premiumization trend really picking up in India, people willing to spend that kind of money. Do you think with that, the entry of Tesla into India is really going to cement the fact that people are willing to put their money where their mouth is?
If you look at the Indian market, even today, there are about 10 manufacturers which are making EVs or selling EVs in the country, and 7 to 8 of them are in the semi-premium luxury market. To that extent, the market is still very limited in numbers. I mean, if you look at luxury car market, is 45,000 a year. So even if you take 30% penetration, it makes 12,000. So that extent, the market is very small. And even if Tesla comes in, and there are juries out on that, and as Hormazd mentioned, it's a poster boy of the industry. How much they will be able to sell, and will it really unshackle the industry and bring a price point to the mass market, which is about 8 to 12 lakhs? That's some question which has to be answered.
What is your understanding as to what could be the price range for Tesla?
Asking me,
yes,
Nikunj?
That's right.
Yeah. So I think, the Model 3, they're going to be expensive. Obviously, there's the understanding is that the customs duty will be reduced on that. So by how much, we don't know. But let's assume it's not reduced because, we can only speculate how much it would be reduced by. I don't think the car could come for anything less than 50-60 lakhs, maybe even more. So that's quite expensive. I think the larger game plan of Tesla is they are developing a low-cost model, and they're looking at production bases globally. I think that really is the big allure for the government over here to pull in Tesla to develop a strong manufacturing base for a low-cost car. We know that they were looking at Mexico as one opportunity there to develop what is going to be a that car could be in the range of maybe 25 lakhs or so if they can really localize it. So I think that's what is the ultimate game plan, to really bring a low-cost, affordable car fully localized in the market. But before that, they want to seed the brand with some good numbers, and the way they want to do that is with the lowering of customs duty. But as current customs duty stand, about 50-60 lakhs is what I think they could bring the car for. That's still quite expensive. Even being a Tesla, volumes for that would be very low. And the other issue is the retail network. I don't know how they're going to manage that, because that again is a challenge. Tesla have their own retail network and their own distribution, and there are regulations for FDI in retail. So if they don't have a typical dealer model, and they're going to go direct to consumer, they might have to deal with some FDI issues over there. So really, there's a lot of moving parts to this, and I think a lot is not clear as yet.
Anybody, Hormuzd, who's thinking that, look, what happened after Tesla's entry into China, the same could happen in India, that would be a figment of imagination? I mean, the reality in India is very different. It will be very different from China.
It is very different. I mean, look, with that on that premise, MG launched the Comet in India because they were quite. They said that look, this car and it's one of the best selling cars, in China, and it's bombed over here. So Indian market very different. I think we are very price sensitive, much more than even China is. And at the end of the day, don't forget that you've got some strong brands over here which have locked up the market. And again, it's there are a lot of hurdles, for getting cars into India, setting up a distribution network, all that sort of thing. And at the end of the day, China has a certain amount of scale and a certain amount of volume and demand where, brands like Tesla can really thrive. But over here, we've seen the pyramid really get very pointy at the top end the minute you start going up the price ladder. So I think you just can't compare, and to assume that a car's successful in China is going to be successful here, is a big mistake. In fact, if you look at it, there's a trend that the most successful car manufacturers in the world aren't necessarily successful in India, and vice versa. So those who are very successful in India aren't very successful globally. So what it says is that we have a very unique set of market conditions, consumer dynamics, and it's something that you can't expect that you're successful in one market and you'll automatically be successful here.
It's a very different micro market as compared to the rest of the world. That point is taken, Hormazd. But Arun, you talked about how the EV penetration in the country still continues to be quite low. So, A, what's needed to propel that? Because I think the government is doing a lot already. And do you expect a K-shaped kind of growth coming in when it comes to the EV transition in the next 2 to 3 years?
See, EV penetration in the country is about 1.5%. But if you take the slightly upper end market, luxury market will be around 6 to 7%. Now, the FAME benefit which the government has is only applicable for commercial application. So, all the 90% of the EV sales do not come under the FAME benefit. They only get the benefit of the GST. And Arun mentioned the price point is very important. Today, Tesla has a price which even if you follow, so the challenge is if you follow the CBU route, it's close to 55, 60 lakhs. If you follow the CKD route, which will take time, it will still be 40 lakhs. So you have to create a model uniquely for the Indian market, and then all the challenges of distribution, customer insight, perspective come in. So penetration is still a long haul. Unlike two-wheelers where the penetration is growing, cars are still very low. And the other thing we have to keep in mind, there are different technologies in the passenger vehicle industry which are coming up well. Whether it is hybrid, whether it's flex fuels, whether it's CNG, unlike the two-wheeler. So the penetrations will be a challenge in that sense.
Okay, fair enough. So what, according to you, Mr. Malhotra, do you think that the government should do in order to invite some of the other bigger global brands in the country? Do you think enough has been done, or do you think that a lot more still needs to be done from the government's end?
So if you look at it, already there are about 10 to 12 manufacturers who are selling EVs. The numbers may be small. So the government has got this PLI scheme, which could be made more efficient, and the PLI scheme could be much more proactive. Then you have the advanced cell chemistry scheme, which helps for battery. But for some period of time, the FAME benefit, which is excluded basically for passenger vehicles, it could be made valid for passenger vehicles, and that would also give a thrust to the passenger vehicle sales. Today it is excluded out. That's why there is a limitation on this respect.
Arun, Hormazd, thank you so much for making time and speaking with us, and fingers crossed that we get to test drive that Tesla in India very soon. Yes, it will be modified, and there are a lot of other things that we'll have to watch out for, but fingers crossed nonetheless. But